Death Watch.
Okay, so if you guys remember, you had brought the stone shard back to the Isle of Cradle and found the stone finger where the dais was set up, and you placed that shard into it looked like a painting on stone, and it had a piece missing, and that shard fit perfectly in there. So you placed it in, and then an earthquake occurred, and you saw a lot of trees down below in the forest get shaken so violently that they fell over. And then you took to the sky to return to your village. Right before you did that, another landmass appeared off to the west. And as I'd said, this one was enormous, much larger than the island you're from. And it was mostly brown, gray, red stone as far as you could see. And as you were ready to head back to your village, the angry mountain exploded. And the last thing any of you remember was the shockwave hitting you before you lost consciousness. So we take up right from there. The blast wave from the erupting angry mountain washes over you, slamming into you with apocalyptic force, knocking the breath from your lungs. You're vaguely aware of snot issuing from your nose, and you feel your consciousness waver, fading in and out. You think you hear your rock shriek in pain or panic, but then you think that you could not possibly have heard any such thing, and you doubt you will ever hear anything again. The sound of the eruption reaches a level where your brain is no longer capable of translating it into anything meaningful. Not only did you hear it, but you felt it as well in the wave that even now tosses you through the air, spinning and tumbling in a cloud of feathers. Now, during the brief flashes of lucidity that come and go, you think you actually see the sound too. Your mind finally surrenders to unconsciousness, and as it does, you have a flash of an enormous face made of molten rock. Lava runs down the face in streams larger than any river. The eyes are pools of magma, each as large as an ocean. Those eyes are drawn down tightly in an expression of rage so primal that you might very well be looking at the very origin of anger itself. Those eyes take in all the world before it, and then enormous jagged mountain ranges that comprise its lips part as it blows fire over the world. Then you have a flash of another face, just as large, but elven in appearance. This face is handsome to the point of being beautiful and is framed by long golden hair, with the faint hint of gray at the temples where crow's feet have just begun to form. A golden chain hangs from his neck, and the amulet bears a crescent moon within a circle. As the wave of world-ending fire races towards you, he closes his hand over you and tosses you. You feel a shift, as though the very world around you steps sideways, and then darkness takes you. Now, Graham, moments later, or perhaps hours, you cannot say, you start coming around. You feel the wind rushing by, blowing your hair back and pressing against your face almost painfully. You feel like you're floating on a cloud. As your eyes flutter open, you see the new landmass spreading out beneath you. Brown, gray, and red, it seems that everything is rock and stone. Enormous chasms, canyons, buttes, and cliffs scar a landscape that seems to have not one piece of flat ground on it. You see the enormous mesa at the western edge of your vision, rising above the desolate landscape like a wall built by gods. Consciousness fades out, then in again. You notice with great joy that your ears work. Though all they hear is the rushing wind, there is no pain there at least. Your eyes are drawn to a section of ground at the bottom of a narrow canyon that from your distance looks as smooth as glass. The ground snakes along to the north for a distance you can't quantify as the numbers and definitions dance around your mind, taunting you as they remain just out of reach. Along that floor there are small formations like natural arches, not connected to the cliff walls on either side. None of the formations look anything like the others, though each of them have a hole through their center about the same size. You notice that formation is getting closer to you, and your mind struggles a bit to understand how that could be. The earth should not be moving at all. Then you have a bright, white-hot flash of panic as you realize the truth, but despite the panic and the circumstances, your consciousness fades again. Just not completely. Like a man swaying gently on a hammock after all the day's work has been completed, you enter that rare state between sleep and wakefulness where you are aware of everything, but all the parts of you that might care or be able to do something about it are soundly resting. You feel, in a detached way, as you slam into the top of the rock formation. Much larger now than it had been moments ago. You feel crunching and crumbling, and you're not sure if it is the stone or your bones. You hear the sound of falling rocks and a loud thud. So you're not sure how long you're unconscious. But when you wake again, you rise to your feet and take stock of yourself. And you're surprised to find that you're not wounded. The memory of the blast wave and your fall are sharp in your mind, and you even remember the feeling of the impact as you smash through the now ruined rock arch formation, the rubble of which is all about your feet. Despite this, you find yourself hale and whole, feeling quite well as a matter of fact. You cast about and see your companions, and your heart drops as you notice that they were not so lucky. Fenrith is closest to you, and you see that he did not strike one of the arch formations, but fell straight to the ground, about 20 feet away from you. He lies in a depression that matches the shape of his armored form. Beyond him, perhaps 100 feet away, you see Casimir. He did strike one of the arch formations and smashed through most of it, but somehow his net, knocked loose by the impact or perhaps the violent spinning motion caused by the blast wave, is now snagged on the jagged remains of the top of the arch, with the other end of it wrapped neatly around his neck. He sways gently in the wind that you now notice blows with great ferocity as it bounces between the walls of the canyon. You're too far away to determine if he still lives. There you are.
Well, I'll head over to Fenrith, probably stumbling a little bit, just because I have the sense that I should feel worse than I do. But I'll kneel down next to Fenrith and look over his wounds.
Okay, so you kneel down next to Fenrith and you see that he struck hard enough to make a Fenrith-shaped depression in the stone. You don't see any blood, and you clearly see that he's breathing, but he's wrapped in full armor, and so if there are any wounds, you're not able to see them.
I will gently try to shake him awake. Fenrith, wake up.
Is it like a bag of chicken bones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter what you try, he just isn't coming around. You can see he's breathing well, but he's not waking up.
Well, I'll go to my backpack, see if it's attached, if I have it on me.
Yeah, you do.
And I'll fish out my potion of Cure Light Wounds I'd been saving. It's my final one. And I'll try to trickle some of the liquid down his throat.
All right, you notice something odd the moment you grab that healing potion. The vial is usually clear and clean. It's now yellowed and faded. The liquid within, always before with healing potions a shade of blue, unmarred by other colors, now appears washed out and faded. Brownish streaks, like bits of dried paint, float within. As you pull the stopper, a foul odor reminiscent of stagnant swamp water and decaying fish assaults your nostrils immediately.
Down the hatch.
Yeah. You can poison me.
When I smell it, I'll I'll curse elements, and I'll dump it out on the ground.
Okay.
Can you use Heal Untrained?
I think you could use the skill. If you remember, I do have that obsidian rod.
You could just use magic device on his hands.
That's right. The obsidian rod.
It's a rod of cure.
Yeah,
people.
you were bipping me with it.
Yeah,
okay.
you were using it.
I
still have it. So.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to fish that item out if his items are on him.
Okay.
I'll look around for the obsidian rod.
The stench of it assaults your nostrils.
Well, he landed on his back, and that is in his pack, which is underneath him.
And he's lodged there.
Yeah, so, I mean, it will take a strength to get him out of there.
Okay, I'll try it.
Yes.
Yeah, you managed to do it. So you reach down in there and, manage to get your hands underneath his arm and pull him over, and you can drag him out.
I'm like soup all my
And
fluids.
in short order, you found that obsidian wand.
Okay, I'll grab it in both hands and try to activate it.
Okay.
Use magic device. I got a 20.
All right.
Not sure if that's enough. Oh, yeah. 20.
Got what I needed.
Got what you needed.
So, yeah, I'll activate it in my roguish way and touch the end of it to his body.
All right. So go ahead and roll the healing for that.
You want to roll yours? I don't have your... rod.
That's the cure moderate, or the obsidian wand was that?
Let me
Cure
double
critical?
check it. I believe that it was cure critical though.
It was, yeah. So
Yeah.
roll critical, cure critical wounds.
So 25.
All right, so you focus your attention on this wand, and you point it at him, and you activate it, and it works, and you can feel the healing energy pulse out of it into him, and
That take care of my 7 wounds.
yeah. But even after that healing energy sweeps through him, there's no change. He doesn't wake up, and you don't notice any visible change because you can't, like I said, you can basically just see his face through his armor. You don't notice any change. So it's at this point that you're looking at him, and suddenly you see the lines of his blood flow as you've done before. Suddenly that vision returns, and you can see more now. You can see the lines of his blood flowing, making sort of a stick figure outline, but now you can see greater detail. So the little tributaries and offshoots, from the main veins, and you can see that. You get a very good X-ray-like outline of his body.
Am I able to determine that life is like flowing through him?
Right. So roll what heal? Can you use heal? Do you have heal?
I don't have any ranks in it, but
Can it be
I
used
can
on
roll
train?
it for you. I believe
Yeah,
so.
I believe it's wisdom, which will be fun for Graham.
I got a 9.
Okay. So as you're looking at this and you're trying to determine what it means, you just don't have the knowledge. You don't know, but for sure you know that it's working. That part you can see, so you have an intimate knowledge of the way blood is supposed to flow through the body. You don't know where you came about it, but you have it, and that part's working properly. So taken with his steady breathing, and now you know for sure there's no wounds. That's as much as you can determine. He's not getting worse. I'll say you can determine that he's not getting worse.
Wait right here, Fenris. I gotta go get the others. And I'll head over to Casimir if I believe he was described as the next closest.
Yeah, he is, and things are worse for him. You still have this vision, but you see that things are not going well for him with that net wrapped around he's basically hung.
Oh, okay. So I'll pick up the rod, the obsidian rod, before I leave Fenris' body to go over to Casimir.
Okay.
Start healing him while he's still hung there.
And how high is he suspended?
Not high. His feet are just above the ground, so a little taller than you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll immediately unsheath Bloodtooth and try to cut him out of his net.
Sure. I'm still on your list, ain't I?
All right, so as you're rushing over to Casimir, the battered and bruised form of Rohan floats gently to the ground at an almost leisurely pace.
Yeah.
A gust of wind catches him and slams him into the upright section of the upright arch formation from which Casimir hangs. And he's held there momentarily as the wind presses against him, but when the gust subsides, he floats downward again. His foot becomes lodged in the stone, and as gravity pulls him downward, resisted by the magic of his ring, his body is slowly spun around until his head now points at the ground, and you hear a sickening crunch and a pop that occurs at the precise moment the wind dies completely, leaving no other sounds to compete with. And this pop bounces between the canyon walls in an echo that seems to turn into mad laughter just as it fades from your ears. Rohan's downward momentum ends just as his head meets the stone ground and is pushed aside at a stomach-turning angle.
I float softly down, land on my head, and then snap my neck.
Oh, I thought it was your leg.
Yeah, so that happens as you rush over there, but then you...
Well, the way I imagine the scene played out is Graham paused there with Bloodtooth starting to saw at what's suspending Casimir, and then he just watches for like 30 a minute. And then I'll turn back to trying to free Casimir.
Well, he's dead.
All right. Yeah, so you're able to saw through that trailing line from the net, and Casimir finishes his short fall to the ground.
And then in an abundance of concern for Rohan as well, I'll just hit Casimir with the obsidian rod and then rush over to Rohan.
Okay, well, hang on. So you've cut him down, and you're looking at him, and you see these flowing lines, and you start to get some other details. You clearly see the lines as they relate to Rohan and his mangled ankle and shin, and with the damage visible in front of you, you're able to piece together, at the very least, what those lines tell you when it comes to broken bones. And that sense helps you to determine that despite his awkward landing, his neck is not broken, although you are certain that the muscle is torn. And armed with this new understanding, you realize that something is wrong with your companions that cannot be attributed to the physical, at least insofar as you're able to decipher. Neither Fenrith nor Casimir have broken bones. And although Casimir was certainly within moments of dying, blood flow to his head has been restored since you cut him down, and it seems there's no permanent damage. Whatever is wrong with them, you know for certain that it's beyond your knowledge. And now that you take a closer look, you realize it is getting worse, whatever it is. You get a sense of, that's all I can say. You get a sense that something is wrong with them and it's getting worse. You have no idea what it is. So, you wanted to use the wand on Casimir?
Well, in seeing what I see through Bloodtooth, I think I'll just, get him settled and then go try to free Rohan from where he's caught on that archway. But while I'm doing that, I'll ask Bloodtooth, are you there, Bloodtooth?
Okay. Yeah, so you ask that in your head, and then that's when you realize that you don't feel Bloodtooth anymore. Since it revealed itself to you, he's been a constant presence even in your sleep, like you're always aware of an arm or a leg. And now, like the stories from some of the fishermen of the Phantom Limb, you feel the place where he's supposed to be, but nothing is there. And being aware of that, you find yourself constantly looking to that place, like running your tongue over where you lost a tooth. And then you glance into your hand and you expect to see Bloodtooth, but instead you see a short spear. Its blade and much of it's just in your hand as if it was always there. And you recognize it as your short spear. And no doubt it's an improved version of the one you carried before it transformed into a dagger, but it bears your sigil, but no thoughts or voice emanate from it. And this triggers a chain of realizations for you, little details that you realize you already noticed, but which, as happens to you frequently, were cataloged without your oversight to be examined later, if at all. And they all rush to the forefront now in a blitz of flashing images. Fenrith's armor had changed from when you first laid eyes on him and when you got back to him after, when you looked back to him after freeing Casimir. And Casimir's net had not shocked you when you grasped it. And matter of fact, many of the links had been snapped. But now, where it lay in a mass tangle a few feet away, some of the links have repaired, and it glowed faintly blue. But now, like a mass of writhing snakes, it's slowly untangling itself and folding up to its readied state. And Rohan, you saw him before you registered him in your mind. You'd seen him. And he had been falling much faster, as though he did not have a magic ring to slow him, before suddenly, only a few dozen feet from the ground, he had started falling slowly again. In addition to that, Rohan's greaves on his right shin, mangled and twisted, only now beginning to reform themselves, which is a process that should have started immediately and been done by now. So these are some things you realize.
Okay, well, I'll keep that in the back of my head, and I'll drag Rohan over near to Fenrith, talking to them while I do that. Or not Fenrith, I'll drag him near to Casimir. I'll be like, I don't know what to do here, guys. I'm the worst possible hero to be on their own. I know, Casimir, we're running out of time, but what do you want me to do?
Do you put your hand on my neck and move my head when you...
We're wasting time. And then I'll go to drag...
Backhand you.
Snap out of it, Graham. I'll go to drag Fenrith over to the other two so that I have them arranged there. And I'll be like, don't do it, Fenrith. Don't declare you dead. You're not dead, I can see.
I move my mouth. You're all dead.
No. I suppose once I have them arranged there, I will hit the other two with that rod, just as at my wit's end.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and make your roll.
So Casimir first, and I got that one, and I also got the one for Rohan.
Okay. So with Casimir, you cast that and you feel it work. And like I said before, you don't see any visible change from it. He didn't have any visible wounds. But with Rohan, you see it stitch up his ankle and his shin. And you can see the muscle in his neck was bulging from the tear, but that repairs itself as well. But they still don't wake. And their breathing remains steady. You still get the sense that something is wrong and that it's getting worse.
Well, having them arranged, I'll make them as comfortable as I can, but now I'll start to look at my surroundings more.
Okay.
I'll search around the immediate area.
All right. Give me 1 second.
I'll keep that obsidian rod with me.
It's going to be like the new potion, so you like sit there thinking, tapping it, and every time you do, it's a heal.
All right. Yeah, so you're taking stock of your surroundings and looking around and pondering your circumstances. So you've got a canyon you're in, and you're at the bottom of it, and it's anywhere from 25 feet wide to a couple 100 feet wide, and it seems to get wider as the further north you look. To the south of you, not very far at all, maybe 100 feet, it angles sharply, and so that's as far as you can see. And to the north, maybe double that distance before it angles again, and you can't see. And it's dotted almost in the center, the perfect center between each wall is these rock arch formations, which, like they have in, what's that park?
Zion's National.
Zion's, yeah, those sorts of things. So that's what you see. You don't see any shrubbery or brush. You don't see any animals. You don't hear anything but the wind. It's constantly blowing and it's extremely loud. Right? So it's that sort of wind. It's not really cold, but it's constantly blowing in your eyes. So they're always watering, and this fine rock dust is being blown everywhere. A sound does catch your attention finally that sets itself apart from the wind, and it sounds like a rock striking the ground. So you whirl to look, but all you see is empty canyon, massive red and gray walls. They rise hundreds of feet on either side of you, and this center has those arches, like I said. You look above you, scanning along the canyon walls, but you don't see anything that could have caused that. I mean, it is possible rocks just fall sometimes, but then you see another one fall, and then another. And after that one, a much larger one, perhaps the size of a fist, and your eye caught this one in its flight high enough to determine its origin. And then you realize that these rocks are not falling from the walls, and they aren't being thrown from the tops either. They are falling from the angry reddish-brown clouds in the small section of the sky that you're able to see. It's raining, but those clouds are dropping rocks, not water. So you hear the distant rumble of thunder, though it sounds more like boulders rolling down a hill. And here, so deep with the walls on either side rising above you, the light is fading fast.
So are these rocks falling sort of straight down, or are they coming from an angle?
The ones you've seen have been coming pretty much straight down.
Was there anything that might work as a shelter when I looked around?
Well, the only thing you can see that might work as a shelter is the arches that aren't damaged by someone falling through them. But it would be poor shelter. Not all of you would be able to fit under it. And as you look at those and weigh that option, the light sprinkling of stones continues. And so far, for the most part, they're little more than pebbles with the occasional fist-sized ones, but you do happen to be looking to the north when a much larger stone, the size of a pumpkin, falls, and it strikes a section of the wall that juts out towards the center with a terrifying crack, and it's deflected violently toward the other wall, where it again makes a loud contact and is sent spinning back the other direction, and it strikes the other wall again, only 30 feet or so from the canyon floor, and bounces wildly along the ground, skipping and jumping, the teeth-aching sound rising above the howling wind as it roils through one of the arches. It seems from your angle that it will roll through the opening, but a wild bounce sends it into the inner side of the upright, slamming into it with enough force that the ground shakes. The arch maintains its integrity, but jagged chunks of stone shake loose and fall to the ground. And this just shows how ineffective a shelter those arches would be.
Use your survival. Find a place.
Yeah, I suppose I'll have to arrange ahead. I will take Fenrith's shield and prop it over his head. At least help one of them.
Okay, so had you left Fenrith where he was?
No, I arranged. I
got them all
in
together?
in a pile.
You should put his shield on your back if you're
Oh, there
dealing
you
with
go.
falling rocks.
Wait a second.
So just put me over their heads so my armor protects them.
Well,
Close my helmet.
yeah, so I mean, that's the thought that occurs to you. You need to range out ahead, and so you make this arrangement with the shield, but as you're working on that, getting that ready, and, you know, despite the howling wind and the stinging dust, but the light has faded to the point that it's difficult to see anymore, and the dust makes it worse. And so when you're getting them arranged, before you head out to check on things, you've got like that ever-burning torch, right? And even with it, you find yourself leaning closer and closer to see what you're doing. And then finally, that dawns on you that you're leaning closer and closer, and you look to the white flame on that torch and see that it's only half the size it should be. And it's starting to fade in and out in a gentle strobe effect. So as you're looking at it, it goes out completely. So that's you knelt down beside your companions trying to arrange some safety for them. And then the light goes out. At this point, it is completely black. There's no sources of light whatsoever. And this sporadic vision or ability to see the bloodlines, that's gone as well. So there you are in the black. And the wind continues to blow. And now you hear the rain start to pick up its intensity, and so stones are slamming into the ground, but you can't see them anymore. Right? That's where you are now. It's completely black.
Well,
And for some reason, the magic of the ever-burning torch is gone.
I'm quite frightened now, so I suppose Graham will reach for his sham if he still has it, and, you know, try to play some courageous song to give him spirit in this moment.
Okay.
But yeah, like I'll have, you know, I'll be I put my backpack up high, and I'm crouched there. You know, I got my sham out. I make sure these guys are as safe as they can be.
Okay.
Thought you were putting your head in the bag of holding.
All right.
It's a different dimension.
Yeah, so you're trying to cover yourself as best you can, and you've got your sham, and you know, you can't help but constantly look every direction, hoping to see some source of light, and then that you do suddenly, right in front of you, you see a red flowing outline. That vision returns to you, and you see the outline of a creature right in front of you, and it takes a moment to realize what it is, and then you realize that it's the cat, and she's sitting in front of you, looking at you, and this vision that you have, this sight that you have with the outlines, it is able to impart the cat's expression and eyes, especially the eyes, and she's sitting in front of you out in the open as if rocks aren't falling from the sky, looking at you with that frightening intensity that only cats are capable of. But she meows at you and then turns and starts moving in a northern direction. And after a few paces, she stops and turns back to see if you're following.
Yeah, I'll scramble after her. Oh, wait up, Omen.
All right. So she isn't a source of light, so there's no illumination. So literally only thing you can see is this cat's outline, right? So you get up to start following her. with no idea where she's taking you, and you can't see what's in front of you, and it proves to be incredibly unnerving. You find that every step you take, you're desperately hoping that the ground will still be there to meet your foot, as the stones continue to rain down from the sky. And on occasion, the wind quiets just enough for you to hear the stones whistling toward the ground where they smack and shatter. And you've gone about 10 feet, you imagine, when you hear a flutter and you feel a weight come to land on your shoulder. And you look and see that it's the silver raven, Rohan's companion. And he's landed on your shoulder, and he's looking at you in that unnerving way that ravens have. Well, any bird, but ravens especially, where he's tilting his head so his eye meets your eye. And so there you go. You got that raven on you. And you're following this cat, and you figure after what's probably less than 50 feet, she stops and sits on her haunches and looks at you. You don't have any sense of the surroundings, so you don't know where she is or where she stopped, but you feel that raven shift on your shoulder, and then it produces a caw. And I had described before that this caw that this particular raven produces is a nice sound, right? But it's not this time. This time it's a very forceful sound. And out of the blackness, you're somehow able to see the sound of that call as it emanates outward in a silver line. And this effect enables you to see that the cat has stopped at an opening in the canyon wall that you couldn't see from where you were.
Okay.
The silver line disappears, but not before you're able to see it move its way through a short tunnel that opens into a wider chamber. And once you see that, the cat seems to realize you've seen it. She ambles her way into the tunnel.
Yeah, I'll follow them in or her in. Did you name the raven, Rowan?
I don't think so.
Probably has a name. He just needs to ask it.
Okay.
He's not very considerate towards all these animals.
Yeah, I know. What type of ranger are you?
All right. So yeah,
One that doesn't get to be around animals much.
you go down the tunnel, and you walk for it's probably about 20 feet long, and then it opens into a wider chamber, and you still can't see, but you can see the cat, and the raven is still on your shoulder. And then at that point, as you step into that chamber, that ever-burning torch flares to life again. Seems weaker than it should be, but it does illuminate the space. So it's probably 40 feet in diameter, just based on the shadows that you see and your memory of the sound wave moving through it. You can't see the full diameter of it, but so it's decent sized. And you look around. The ceiling's rough and uneven. It's 5 feet at its lowest point on the northern side and 20 feet at its highest, probably. And the rough walls are covered in primitive drawings. The eastern side of the room shows evidence of workmanship. The floor has been worked smooth there, and a small basin has been formed in the stone to allow water to pool. This water trickles down the side of the wall, and they've formed a basin to collect it at some point. A small pile of what looks to be animal dung of some kind sits next to a spot on the floor that's clearly been used for fires, like as a place to build fires in the past. And that's placed right at the point where the ceiling angles upward sharply so the smoke can escape. So the cat is just sitting on its haunches, licking it, cleaning it, grooming herself as if you don't exist. But the raven remains on your shoulder. But outside, you can still hear the howling wind. It doesn't make its way into the chamber, luckily, but you can hear it, and the clatter and shatter of falling stones keeps getting louder. Occasionally, the ground even vibrates when a particularly large stone hits the ground.
Oh, I gotta get the others in here. You got any ideas, Omen? And I'll put that torch on the ground, or maybe prop it somewhere if I can, in between two rocks or something. Mm-hmm. And I'll get out my rope. And my thought here is to use it as a guideline as I venture back out to try to start dragging my companions back.
Yeah,
it's 50 feet. I can't. Is that going to cover the distance I traveled?
It won't. It would almost do it from the exit of the tunnel to your companion.
Okay.
So,
That's what I'll go for, and then I'll just get to the end of it and see where I'm at and
okay.
go from there.
All right, Casimir, you wake up on hard stone. The light that spills into your eyes is dull, dim, like the last bit of the candle. Pain lances through your body as you push yourself to your feet. You take stock of yourself and see that all of your gear is present and in place, but it feels different. The armor seems heavier and rust has begun to take hold in some places. Your trident seems less balanced now, and the tines are slightly bent, and they wobble as you move the weapon in your hands. It's not only your weapons and armor that feel different, you feel different as well. You struggle to categorize the sensations for a moment, and then, as if called, the truth of it rushes to the fore of your mind. You're old. Your knees hurt, your hips as well, though the left is much worse than the right. Your eyes don't seem to work as well as they should. You find yourself squinting for no reason to take the blur out of whatever you're looking at. The worst pain is in your hands. That pain is the worst by far. Your past is hard to grab hold of at the moment, but you know you're a warrior and you know pain. You know you have felt its bite more times than you could ever count, and you have the memory of pushing through pain, but this pain in your hands is different. You tell yourself that you will push through it and grasp the haft of your trident. You tell yourself that your hands will obey you and that you will ignore their protest. It should be easy for a man who has faced goblins and orcs, Yuan-ti, ogres, minotaurs, dragons. Dragons. Yes, you have faced dragons. You're certain of it, though the details escape you. You have faced dragons and worse. A man such as that, a man who has faced and felled more enemies than any but the gods could count, can fight through the pain in his hands and grasp his trident properly one last time, can't he? You look down at your hands with the grim determination of a man who has told a mountain to move and then watched it get up and leave. You focus on those scarred, gnarled hands, dotted with dark spots. You tell fingers, every one of which has been broken a dozen times at least, to close about the haft, but they don't. You hold your weapon, and certainly it is held secure. You could probably fight with it if you needed to, but you're not holding it properly, and no amount of will or focus or determination will change that. You are old. The pain is left behind with your body as your mind is suddenly swept away over the barren landscape, and you sail over barren stone to a place where the stone begins to show cracks, like mud drying in the heat. Magma fills these cracks, bubbling and spitting. It looks very much like blood seeping out through sores and broken skin. You dive suddenly into one of those flows. You brace yourself for pain that doesn't come, and you pass through the lava without resistance. You follow its path ever deeper, ever faster, until suddenly you come to stop in an enormous cavern, the limits of which are far beyond your sight. Two titanic forces contend with one another in this cavern. Though your mind places dimensions on them so that you can make sense of it, you know instinctively that these beings are beyond the limitations of size in the way that a mind understands it. But in your mind, a living mountain fights against a raging ocean of fire and lava. A sense of the length of time these forces have contended with one another brushes ever so lightly across your mind, just enough to make you aware that this battle has been ongoing for so long that it no longer can be defined by time as the elven mind understands it. Time seems to have no meaning to these combatants, yet at the same time it does, as some concept must be used to mark the points at which something about their struggle changes. It is to one of these occasions that your consciousness is focused. The fire has found a way to win the battle, and you come to understand its plan. Over untold eons, it has slowly pushed its way deeper and deeper, pooling its power, using the rules of its enemy against it. Deep below a large mountain, a mountain created by the movement of its very enemy, it waits for the plates to shift again. But the earth has allies. Your mind is swept away through solid rock and stone along veins of precious metals wider than rivers until you come to a great underground city. You hover above and watch as thousands of industrious people, who you recognize as dwarves, work day and night constructing something in the center of their city. The particulars of their construction are too ephemeral for you to define, but the purpose is quite clear. As the fire tries to use the earth's own power against it, so these dwarves and their alliance with the earth plan to use the fire's power against it. Time passes, you do not know how much, but when their construction is complete, and just when the fire is prepared to strike, to blow the mountain apart and spread across the face of the world in its never-ending quest to consume and destroy, the trap is sprung, and it is swept away from the mountain through deep trenches and canals. Like a mighty river, it pours through the center of the dwarven city, striving always, in vain, to break the boundary of the path carved for it, but never quite able to. The great construction in the center of the city is revealed to be a forge of incredible proportion, and the angrier the fire grows, the greater the dwarves' production. So, until now, time for you has been a concept without definition, but that changes as you watch the splitting of the world. As piece by piece it begins to disappear until all that remains is one small island floating in the vast ocean. Then as years pass, some parts begin to reappear, and you understand that you're seeing the results of your actions as a much, much, much younger man when you traveled with your companions to set the world right again. And finally, when the large landmass next to the island of your birth appears, the fire awakens. Something you cannot quite see blocks the fire's path through that city deep below the earth, leaving no other path for it than its original desire. And you can feel its elation as it rushes forth, bursting from the mountain in cataclysmic eruption. And then you see nothing, and you drift through the void until consciousness fades. You lay down the rope and you go back to your companions. Now you have that outline vision again right now. So you can see them. They're like a beacon out ahead of you. Right? So you're able to get to them quickly. What do you do when you get there?
Well, I'll grab Fenrith first and just try to make it back to the cave entrance with him.
Okay.
And then I'll repeat the process for the other two, assuming everything goes well.
Yeah. So you manage to get Fenrith up and haul him over your shoulder and turn around and make for that cavern again.
And what you have the bag of holding on you, right? Yeah.
So when you do make it back to them, the raven hops off your shoulder and perches over Rohan, and you can see it spread its wings over his head as if to protect him, which is, a laughable proposition.
Right.
Yeah. So you take Fenrith back, and then you head back for your other companions. And Rohan, suddenly you find yourself awake, and you're floating in the air, maybe a mile in the air, above a forest that stretches far beyond your sight. You know its dimensions, even if its limits are beyond the horizon. The forest begins in a hollow in the shadow of the Angry Mountain and continues north and east for 2,000 miles and more. Of all alive, none have explored its secrets but you. Rivers pass through it, some of which see their beginning and end before ever leaving its boundaries. Lakes of every size can be found here. 2 mountain ranges and even a desert can be found in its borders. But as you look down upon it now, you see no green. Every tree is brown and black and dead. The forest, great as it was, is not your first concern. You are the hero of the sky, and it is to the sky you look now. Once it would have been blue and clear, but now it is hazy, dirty, and choked. Clouds of smog and ash float sluggishly, and in their sickness they spit acid instead of rain. You suddenly fly north through the air that seems to coat your skin with its filth until you look down on a city that was once great, surrounded by high walls that used to shine brightly with reflected light, but now are in disrepair with missing sections. Crumbled towers and dilapidated palaces rise above destroyed homes. Despite the state of the city, people still live there. They were once free and allies with your people, but now orcs patrol in bands, carrying barbed whips they use freely and enthusiastically. And you know what happened here because you watched it unfold. In the center of the city is a massive palace that used to be grand and beautiful, but now one whole side of it's been destroyed, leaving an opening into the center of it. Most of the inner structure has been removed, that which could be safely removed without causing the rest to fall. And in the center of that castle, sheltered underneath the roof, an enormous green dragon lays curled up on the floor, surrounded by mounds of gold, precious gems. It slumbers now, but you know that it's actually quite an active dragon, and you know that green dragons are probably the most destructive to the environments in which they live because they twist it to their own evil ends. And somehow this single green dragon has obtained dominion over this continent-sized forest. So your mind flashes back to where this began, but then your consciousness fades and you see black again. Okay, Graham, all of your companions have been brought into the cave. You somehow managed to do so without anybody being struck by falling rocks. You can see their outlines still. You can see that nothing has changed as far as that goes. They're still alive, still breathing. Something seems to be getting worse about them. Bloodtooth did not return when the magic of the ever-burning torch did. But you can see that, Casimir's net is got itself folded right back up how it's supposed to be for use. That all of your armor and their weapons have that faint blue glow that they have when the magic returns. So that part's back, but it seems weaker than it ought to, and they still sleep. Outside, it seems as though the storm is getting even worse, and now the only sounds you hear are the howling wind and the stones, the size of which you could only guess, continue to hammer at the ground. What do you do?
Well, once I have them comfortable in the cave, I will take a closer look at the interior.
Okay. Right. Yeah, so I've pretty much described it as it is. There are the only other feature, I said it had all the walls were covered with primitive drawings, and I meant all of the walls. There's no space that hasn't had some image scrawled on it, probably with a burnt stick of some sort. There's no color to it, but there are a lot of images scrawled over it. A lot of it seems to be, you find it hard to believe anybody would waste their time on something like this, but a lot of it seems to be amateurish, crude depictions of, biological necessities or biological acts. But there are sections that depict, warriors taking down large creatures that you can't identify, even if the drawing gave any details. You just get the sense that it's a large creature with 4 legs, or a large creature with horns, or a large creature with wings, but there's depictions of that there. But nothing that springs to you to mean anything important for your current situation.
Well, still not having any idea what I can do to help these guys, I'll just, in our little corner of that cavern, try to make it like a camp. It's an active distraction to keep my mind off my helplessness. But I'll arrange it like we've made camp, talking to my companions as I do so. And once I finish that, I suppose I'll try to look through any of their belongings for something that might help me.
Something to steal?
That would help me. Help them.
Right. So you're setting up your camp and, going through those motions. And, that's a good attitude you got from your dad without him ever actually saying it out loud. But when in doubt, work, So you're keeping yourself busy. And so you don't even, roll a listen.
I rolled an 18.
All right, so you're going about your business there. The way that the floor is shaped over by where that basin is, it's sort of like a shelf, and it's pretty smooth. And you look over there and you see that the cat's curled up on this old man's lap, and she's purring contentedly, and the raven's perched on his shoulder, although the raven continues to stare intently at Rohan. And so you go back, the animals seem fine with that old man, and you go back to preparing, getting camp ready, setting it up. Right? So you're getting like bedrolls laid out, whatever, looking at the ground to see if it's even enough, for a person to rest here or there. and then you open up someone's pack to look through and see if anything could help you. And then it dawns on you there's an old man in the...
An old man?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll twirl around with my short spear clutched in my hand and hesitantly greet the old man.
Yeah.
Hello?
So this old man is dressed in simple robes. He's got long silver hair that hangs loose on his head. He's old, but his eyes are, his face isn't, his demeanor isn't. You can see he's hunched a bit, with age, and he's got, some wrinkles, and his hands are pretty gnarled. He's got the telltale signs of an old man with hair in his ears and things of that nature. But his eyes, they show a youth that is surprising to you. When you whirl around on him, he's in the act of getting his pipe lit, which he does from a tiny stick that flares to flame in his hands. And he's lighting his pipe, and he says, "Wondered how long it was going to take you to notice me. You are a man of focus, I see."
Yeah, I just didn't see you there. Who are you?
Well, it's much less important who I am than who you are.
Well,
Is that appropriately cryptic, young man?
yes.
Does that increase the mystery of my identity? Do you have any food?
I
I'm
do.
starving. I feel like I haven't eaten real food, in 14,788 years.
Yeah, I was just setting up meals for my companions over there. All the meat's gone, though. You can have some nuts. That's all that's left.
Excellent. Yes, bring me some of that, please.
I'll bring
So
it
he
over
says
to him.
in a commanding, a friendly tone, but the tone of someone who expects to be obeyed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll bring him over some of the food. I'll stop short of handing it directly to him, and I'll set the little wooden plate or whatever down in front of him a few feet.
All right. So he thanks you and he begins to eat. And for all the world, it seems like that he doesn't have any other purpose here. He's just here to eat. He doesn't say anything else. Just eats his nuts and pets the cat.
Are you a healer by
Smokes
chance?
on his pipe. Oh, I've dabbled over the years. I can see your friends are in a bad way.
Yeah, they need help. I don't know how to help them.
Well, I might be persuaded to help them if you're willing to pay the price.
What do you want?
There will come a time when I might need a favor from you, and I'll expect you to pay it.
Can I wait to see how your help turns out first?
So he laughs at that. Yes, you may.
Nothing funny, okay?
I wouldn't dream of it. All right. So, he goes to each of your companions in turn, and he looks at them. He's got this manner about him where everything he does, he looks over to you to see what your reaction is, if that makes sense. Like every action he does, he'll do it, but then he'll look to see if you're reacting to it or if it's had any effect on you. And he's got sort of a mischievous little grin forming on his. As he got up and moved away over to check on your companions, you saw that sitting behind him is what you think is a lantern at first. But as you look more closely at it, you see that it is in that shape generally, although it's bigger than a normal lantern. And it does give off a light, but you can see 7 little birds inside it. It's like a little bird cage. You can see 7 birds hopping about. They've got some sticks set up in there, some perches, and they're hopping around in there.
What kind of birds are they?
Well, do nature.
I don't have it. Just an intelligence roll?
Yeah.
I rolled a 20.
These are canaries.
Hey, what is your name? I'm Graham.
Olith. That should do fine. You can call me Orth. I like that better.
Olith or Orth?
Orth, yeah. So he is doing all this, and he's feeling for a pulse, and he's touching their foreheads, and he'll open their eyes, and then he does some weirder things, like he thumps on their forehead and then puts his ear to listen, and he's yeah, talking to himself, and constantly looking to see if you're reacting. But
Yeah, when he gives me one of those looks, I'll be like, yeah, I was just about to do that. Whatever he's doing.
Best left to the pros, son, he says. And you don't see anything happen. He stands up and he says, okay, they'll be fine. For now.
I don't know if that was worth a favor. I didn't see anything happen.
Trust me. As soon as this storm is gone, your friends will wake up. They'll feel better than they've ever felt in their lives. Much better than you, I imagine, as you're not going to get much sleep.
Hey, what's with the birds?
Oh, these are my friends. I like birds, and these are my friends. And this raven is an old friend of mine as well. And then he comes over and stands before you. And it's this point you realize that you had thought maybe he was human. But as you look at him now, you see the upward angle of his eyes and his ears. And so he's certainly got some elven blood, clearest you can tell. But as he stands in front of you, you realize that he's enormous, like way bigger than you. Like he's probably 6'6" as he's standing there in front of you, right? So way more than a foot taller, right? And he puts his hands on your shoulders, and he looks into your eyes, and he says what he says comes out in words you understand, but due to your low wisdom, like sort of just washes over you. But what he says is the return of this land was out of sequence, and as a result, the fire primordial found a means to escape his imprisonment and has destroyed your village and your people. But an ally of mine, a friend of mine, and the patron of your companion there, he points to Fenrith, has used what remains of his power to shift you backwards in time, so that if you can set things right here, then you'll set things right there as well. But you must not falter. You must not abandon your companions, because they'll need you before this is done. Right, so that's what he says. It's like this ferocious intensity. With this, now you realize that your noses are almost touching. He's bent over you, and his gnarled fingers are digging into your shoulders. And, as he's towering above you. And that's what he says. And, because, do a wisdom roll.
I rolled a 2.
Yeah, so he comes over and he stands above you. And it's at that point that you realize, oh my goodness, this guy is enormous. Right? And you can feel the strength in his hands, and it's like he could just tear you like a piece of paper. And he leans down and he's right in your face, and he says all these things, and every word he said, you know what it is and what it means. But when he's done, you have no idea what he was trying to convey, if that makes sense. Right? Anyway, then he steps back and he smiles and says, thanks for the meal. Don't forget you owe me a favor. And he scoops up his lantern cage, and the birds sing, and he smiles and scratches Omen's ears one more time, and then he saunters on out of the cavern through the tunnel. You can just see as he exits that tunnel, and the light being given off by that lantern cage he's carrying, it illuminates a space so you can see boulders falling like right next to him, but they don't touch him, and he seems unconcerned about them. Then he takes a turn to the left, and you can't see him anymore.
Okay, yeah, I was standing there dumbstruck, and when he's out of sight, I'll be like, okay, bye.
All right, so there you are, Graham. The old man was right. You are not able to go to sleep. Whatever you try, either the wind or the raining stones keeps you awake, or you keep thinking about the old man and what he said and trying to make sense of it, or you're worried about your companions. For whatever reason, you're not able to go to sleep. But at some point, a few hours later, you stop hearing the sounds of the falling rocks. And then a little after that, you actually stop hearing the sound of the wind. And it turns out to be no comfort to you, because it was such a constant. Now that it's gone, you're wondering, what else has disappeared. But eventually some light does make its way into the cavern at about the time you expect would be morning. And that's when the rest of you wake up, and you're laid out in a cavern. It looks like a full camp's been made. You're in your bedrolls and your stuff's piled next to you. Rohan, you see the the raven is perched on your pack and is staring down at you. And he seems happy when you wake up. And it's at this point that you also all realize that your weapons and your armor have undergone another change. And Graham, you realize that now they seem to be glowing at full strength. Okay, take it back. They're not. They're still not glowing at full strength, but you guys don't quite realize that yet.
Well, when
There you are. You see Graham. He's sitting up. He looks disheveled and he looks tired. What do you do?
Well, when they begin to rouse whoever's first, I come forward with a plate of food and a water skin. Who is the first to wake?
The first to wake is Fenrith.
So I'll take it. And thank you, Graham. What happened? Where are we? I'll start looking around the cavern.
Well, I don't know quite how to describe it. Seemed like we fell down here.
We fell
and
into
there
this
were
cavern?
rocks coming out of the sky, and I drug you guys to this cavern, and there was an old man, and he had a tiny cage with birds, and look, that's a picture of somebody pooping on the wall.
Since he's obviously disheveled, I'll embrace him. It's okay, Graham.
Yeah, you have the memory of the angry mountain erupting and the shockwave hitting you. And you even get a few snippets of the memory of falling after that. But what happened to your rock and what happened to you is a complete blank.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be the next question is where are the rocks?
No, I don't know. I didn't see them. I couldn't see much of anything. But I'm glad you're feeling better.
And at this point, then Rohan and Casimir wake up as well.
And I'll scramble over with food and drink.
Yeah, I'll go and reach out for the food, but when I kind of do, I'll be exercising my fingers for a second before I take the plate or whatever.
Yeah, you feel amazing relief to realize that they work how they're supposed to.
Casimir, you almost hung yourself. I had to cut you free. Sorry there's no meat left. I don't know.
It's okay, Graham. What happened?
Oh, I don't know. There's the explosion and the shockwave hit us and we all fell and we woke up here and there was rocks raining down from the sky and then I found our way to this cave and there was an old man in the cave and he had a cage with canaries in it. And look at the drawing on the wall.
Yes, the drawing's very entertaining, Graham. What happened to the old man? Who was he?
He said his name was Orth. He left.
Do a knowledge.
I gave him food. That's where the meat went.
I'll look out the cave entrance or whatever. What's it like out there?
Yeah, so you look out there and you see the canyon as I've described. There's a lot of rocks on the ground. And another of the arches didn't survive the night, so the top of it's been shattered. And the wind's not really blowing hard. There is a light breeze, so you get a swirl of dust floating by here and there. But otherwise, it looks like a clear day, although everything seems to have a little slightly like faded look to it, like a washed out look. Like the look they do in shows when you're back in time, right?
Yeah.
It seems to have a look like that.
Time travel filter.
Could I do a knowledge, history, or religion to see if I recognize that name?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Well, looks like you were lucky to find the cave. Good work, Graham.
I think he said we fell into this cave.
No, we fell outside of it.
Oh, okay.
Before you ask, Rohan, we got hit by the shockwave. We fell down here. Rocks were falling from the sky. I found a cave, drug us all into it. There's an old man who had a cage full of canaries, and look at that picture over there.
Did you draw this picture? Is that what you're trying to?
No, there's a bunch of them. It's funny.
Yeah, I'll be looking around the cave and I'll just kind of mumble to myself.
Yeah.
Don't forget to explain why his dagger's missing.
Go ahead and roll both of those.
I'll kind of mumble to myself. It had to be another cave.
Oh, I thought you said religion.
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong one. There you go.
Okay, so he's telling this story and it doesn't make any sense to you, but you do when he mentions the birds, that tickles your mind a bit.
Okay.
Like that sounds familiar. And you remember a snippet of an old story about a friend of Coralon. And that friend, you don't know his name, but he was a god just like Coralon. You don't remember a god of what, but he had a habit of, when he traveled the mortal world, he always would have 7 of something with him. Whatever form he took, sometimes he would have 7. He would be a beggar with 7 stray dogs, or he would be, an old man with seven birds. You remember that. You know the name too. You just can't bring it to mind right now.
All right. Well, I'll.
But he was friends. You know that.
Okay.
With Coralon.
Well, I'll offer up a prayer then to Coralon, Lorathian, and co.
Okay. So when you do offer that, something feels wrong to you, like something's missing. You don't realize until now that you've always had this feeling since you learned about Coralon Lorathian. You've had this feeling that he's with you, not something that can be described. And you only realize it because now it seems to be missing. And like I described with Graham, it's like now that you realize it, it's like you lost a tooth and you can't leave. You can't stop, running your tongue over that spot no matter what, because it just feels wrong.
So I figure, that'd probably be pretty shocking, since he was really always there. And so I'll stop, mid prayer wherever I feel that, and just blurt out that he's not with me anymore.
Hit your head a little too hard there?
As I've always been able to feel him, but he's gone.
Who?
Coralon Lorathian.
Oh.
Yeah, so that you understand that feeling. It's the same thing you've been feeling.
It's all right, Fenrith. Maybe you'll come back.
Never be the same again.
A lot of things have changed. Look at your gear.
I'll start looking at that.
Okay.
All of you.
So what you realize now is, like I said, your weapons and items have undergone another change, right? So Fenrith, for you, your armor has undergone a change. So you've got full plate still, and it's a matte white. If you understand what that means, it's like a flat white, but it's like a really clean white. Seems like the dust and dirt is repelled from it, and you can tell the change it's undergone, that it offers more protection now, as some plates in places that didn't have before, and better protection and better joints and straps even. So it does offer you better protection, and you can feel the power coming from your sword as well. The look of it has changed.
So when you say that, do you mean like the AC bonus is different?
Well, yeah, because it's +2 now.
Oh, okay. I don't know if
It's +2 full plate. So everybody make sure that you set your AC up properly, because it doesn't do it automatically.
Oh, okay.
All right. So then your sword, now the blade is white, and it's got faint flame scrollwork along its length, and the sharply upturned ends of the otherwise straight crossguard are carved candle flames, and the hilt and pommel are in the shape of a torch. So you as you hold it, you understand that this is a flaming sword, and so on command you can cause it to be wreathed in flames. Those, which you do, because you can't help it when you're inspecting a new weapon. And, those flames are white. They're pure white now. And they drip off of the blade, but they disappear before they touch the ground. So
is that like like an oil, flaming oil?
sort of like that, yeah. Yeah, they just drip off. Yeah.
Come here, Graham. I think it does add the bonus, because it's showing my armor is a 10 instead of an 8.
Okay.
So
Perfect. Yeah. So
do I recognize the further ability of that armor to store spells? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that brings up another thing is as I offer, prayer for my spells, do I actually attain them?
It feels like you do,
Okay. That's just off because...
but there is you do feel something different about it. You
Okay.
do feel something different about it. So Rohan, your bow has changed. This one is elegant in its simplicity. Now it's a dark gray shaft with a black string with coiled blue threads wrapping around and along its length. Both the bow and string seem too small, too slight and fragile. But as you hold it, scroll work that adorns the shaft flares to life and casts its crackling glow as lightning arcs between the string and the shaft and you. All right. And you recognize that wood out of the stories that you were told during your training. That's dark wood. It's not something that's supposed to exist at least on Cradle, but you understand it as special properties. It's rare and it's much, much stronger than it looks, and it weighs less than it should. And your teacher always said it took magic better, or it was supposed to take magic better when you're enchanting it. But now you have one in your hands. And your armor has changed as well. Now you still have a mithril chain shirt, but it's black and gray like thunderclouds. And the sigil of the hero of the skies emblazoned on the chest. And when you move, you can see and feel the flexion of the links. Looks like lightning strikes across the black sky. It's like energy of you moving transfers along it, right?
Okay.
And of course, that's you understand that it'll allow you to fly for once per day, up to character level in minutes. It's extremely light, but yeah, and it obviously offers better protection as well. And then your amulets that have increased your health, they now bear the sigil of your hero sigil on them.
Are those still the +6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. So Graham, your chainmail, you read the description. Its edges seem blurry, and it'll help you hide better. When you move, the flexion of the links, where his look like lightning, yours looks like a wave moving across the ocean, sort of. And sometimes when the light and the angle is just right, you think you can see a massive tentacled creature rising behind the sigil that's emblazoned on the chest. So yeah, it provides better protection and makes it easier to move quietly.
All these...
And then let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Fenrith, your breastplate now has changed pretty radically, and it's a dark earthen color. Except the sigil of the hero of the rock is emblazoned on the chest, and it's a massive snow-capped peak. And as you move, it appears as though avalanche is rolling down that mountain face whenever you move. It's also made of mithril, and you can see that it provides better protection than it used to. And you understand instinctively that it's both easier to cast spells in than it was before, which lowers your spell failure chance, and it has a spell storing ability on it. It works a little different than his. Yours is a true spell storing. You can just put whatever spell up to 3rd level you want in there, as long as it has a range of touch.
Okay.
Let's see, your trident had changed as well. It used to look like it was made out of like coral, and now it appears to be made of obsidian.
Yeah. Nice.
And despite its appearance, it's obviously harder than any substance you've ever encountered. And the entire weapon is black, except the sigil of the hero of the rock, emblazoned where the shaft meets the 3 tines. And so now it'll do some force damage, extra force damage on hit.
Is there a difference between personal and touch, I guess?
Yeah, touch, you touch somebody, but personal is only you.
To you. So,
right. So look at the description.
yeah.
So Chris, for your armor, I guess I misspoke. So you can store a spell up to 3rd level in it, And then when you're struck in combat, you can cast that spell. So that's got to be a spell with a range of touch.
Okay.
And when you're cast, you can cast it without, it doesn't take up, it's a free action. So you get hit, you can cast that spell.
But we can't use a personal one in there.
Does yours have the same wording?
Yeah, it's the same wording on that.
Yeah, it just has to have a range of touch. So if the spells doesn't have a range of touch, then it can't be. Right. So you find yourselves looking over your equipment. Your rings have changed as well. It now it bears your sigil, and each of them should have picked up a new ability. So Graham, yours gave you the water walking ability. Now it also gives the create water ability. So water walking and create water. Let's see. Fenrith, yours, fire resistance 20 is what it offered before, and now it allows the use of burning hands. Okay.
Okay.
So you might want to put an attack action on there for that. You can use it as much as you want.
So
It's unlimited.
this is the signet ring?
Yeah, signet ring of the flame.
So this says summon monster.
That's the spell creation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's like one of the things
Now,
it takes
is
to
this
make
the
it.
one that this is the spell storing one too, right?
No,
Or
you
was
have
that
a
a
separate.
different ring?
You have a separate ring of spell
Oh,
storing.
okay. Okay.
That's how come Graham can wear my spell story ring.
That's right. Okay. And burning hands unlimited. Let's see what that is though.
And then Casimir, you have the meld into stone, and now you also have soften earth and stone from that ring.
All right.
And Rohan, you have the electricity resistance you had before, and also Featherfall. So which one did you have first? You had Featherfall already, right?
Yeah, I think the Featherfall and there was some minor resistance to begin with.
So now it's resistance 20.
Okay.
So does this scale
To
up to
electricity.
my level damage wise? Or would it be the rings?
Yeah, let me.
It only goes up to level 5. Caster level says that it's a 15 in the ring.
Yeah. So the way it works in items is you go by the minimum the caster level would have to have been to create it.
And that's the caster level that's actually on when you open up the information.
Yeah, hang on. I'll tell you the caster level.
Let's see. I think just for summon monster 6, you'd have to be 7th? No, 6th level.
Awesome.
All right, yeah, so for summon monster 6, you'd have to be at least 6th level, so I think that it would cap out, because it only goes up to level 5 increase.
Yeah, 5d4. That's what you get, 5d4.
Okay. And so I can put that in the actions tab, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Would I transfer it as a spell, or just an actual, like up where the sword is?
As a spell,
Okay.
but not in with your other spells, like a separate one. Like the way the potions and the wands are, make it a separate one like that. You want me to put it in there for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
just to be safe, because I don't quite remember.
I'll put it.
Oh, no, I see how we. Okay, yeah, I'll leave it for you. I think I see how we were doing it though.
Okay. All right. So what do the rest of you want to do with this new information? So Casimir, when you're walking out there and you're looking out at the ground out there, you do start to notice that all those stones that have fallen and hit the ground, it looks like they're starting to lose their solidity a little bit. You know, at first, it looks to you like sort of like they're turning to mud, maybe. So they're starting to deflate and flatten onto the ground. It's a very slow process, but you can definitely tell it's happening.
That's rather odd. What do you make of it, Rohan?
Your guess is as good as mine. This is a little bit outside of my normal understanding of the natural world.
Well, I guess we could give a knowledge arcana a try. It's real low.
I suppose I could give a shot with a knowledge of nature.
Okay, that's set up for you.
Thank you.
Fenrith. And I mean, I put 10 there, but I mean, it's infinite use, so you can just ignore that part. All right, so Rohan, knowledge nature.
Yep.
And Casimir, knowledge arcana.
Yeah.
Try null the planes as well, just to see if we're on a different one, maybe.
Well, Casimir, you know that magic can soften stone and cause it to become mud or earth.
Yeah.
And that's what it would, this is sort of looks like what that would look like, although you don't see anybody casting that spell, and it's certainly not happening to the other stone, right? Because the arches remain as they are. And around the bottoms of the arches, there's rocks and chips that this is not happening to.
Seems like they might be under some sort of softened earth to mud type spell. But
Rohan, you know from your knowledge of nature that rock does not behave like this normally.
Okay.
And Fenrith, you know that theoretically, at least from your studies, although you've never seen evidence of it, there's supposed to be other planes, including a plane with, the plane of Earth. But you don't see any evidence that you're in that plane. So you don't know what to make of it either. But I mean, as you're watching it and you're each scratching your heads and looking, through the catalog of your mind, it does seem to, the process does seem to start speeding up. And by the end of it, even the largest boulders have completely disappeared. They just sort of melt. And rather than be a puddle of water, they end up as a puddle of stone. And some of it certainly seems to turn to dust, which gets blown about by the wind, but the bulk of it seems to disappear into the ground itself.
All the information that Orth told me where I was sort of transfixed by it, do I recall that?
Yeah, you recall what he said, word for word.
So as these guys are examining the area outside the opening, I'll be like, yeah, that old guy said that this part of the world was restored out of sequence, and as a result, our village was destroyed, but Coraline Lorathian used some of his power to lock it back in time, and if we set things right, we can, save our village. I don't know if he was telling the truth or not, but...
So, what we did destroyed our village.
Yeah, we said it was out of
released
sequence.
Something, and so they sent us back in time to fix it? What I'm getting? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, then we better get started.
Did he happen to say what we're supposed to fix?
No, he just told me not to abandon you guys.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, be nice.
He probably knows how you all are.
Nothing but nice to you.
That's true. That was just a joke. But
Well,
I am concerned if what he said is right about the village.
is there, how did we call our rocks before? Was there like a super secret handshake that we did, or special?
didn't we have a whistle?
You have a whistle.
Yeah. So do we still have that in our
Yeah.
inventory? All right. Well, I'll outside of the cave, I'll try to use mine.
Okay. Yeah, so you go out there and you blow on that, and, nothing happens. Like, it works. Like, you can hear it.
Yeah.
But no rock appears out of the sky.
I think we're just going to have to leave on foot.
Okay. Are we? Do we have an idea of where we're at?
No.
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 Okay.
Like, the best idea you have based on where you were when the eruption happened and the little snippets you can remember of the fall is that you're on the very western or eastern edge of the new landmass, like right up against the very western edge of what the island used to be.
Maybe we can climb up on something and look around.
I was just gonna see if Rohan wanted to try and find us a way out of here.
Sure, I can do that. How high are the cliff walls here?
At least 200 feet in most places.
Yeah.
Never less.
Do we have that much rope?
I don't know. I'm not the one with the bag of holding.
Yeah, we
I
have
think so.
600.
Okay. Say, well, I could get us up to the top of the cliffs.
Make sure your rings fully glow before you go flying too high there.
I think it's my armor that lets me fly now.
Oh, well, make sure that's glowing too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, getting up high would definitely, I think, help with figuring out not only where we are, but what we need to do to get out of here.
Trying to remember if there's a limit on how much I can carry during fly.
I think it's a light load.
I know for sure it is if it's like natural flight. I don't know about magical.
Let's see, you can fly at a speed of 60 feet or 40 feet if you wear a medium or heavy armor, or if you carry a medium or heavy load. So 40 feet with a medium or heavy load, or 60 feet with a light load.
Okay. So I can't carry one of these people up, but I could fly up with the rope and secure it somewhere.
Well, what's your heavy load?
My heavy load, it's not that much. Not particularly strong. Where is it?
And that's with good maneuverability. So there's rules, you know.
My heavy load's 130.
Well, I'm 109, 129 with my gear.
And do you have the bag of holding?
No. That's another 20 or 30 pounds.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
the bag.
Well, it doesn't matter.
like
He's the only one that
60.
can fly, right?
Yeah, but I could carry someone up there with the bag of holding with all of the rope.
Say I have
Or I can just-
airwalk that I could cast on
Wouldn't
you.
it be lighter to just carry the bag of holding?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
and drop the rope down.
Yeah.
yeah, I can do that. I was thinking of dropping someone off and then flying up higher to try and get a view of where we are. But yeah, I'll take the bag of holding, fly up, secure the rope to something, toss it down. How long do you think that would take?
Well, you got a light load,
Yeah.
so you can go 60 feet around.
Okay. But I mean, as far as like tying off the rope and
Okay, so
pulling it out of the bag of
the
holding.
tying off the rope is going to take a pretty good used rope skill because you got
Tie
not
it to the peak of a hill or a
well,
mountain.
yeah. There's not a lot to tie it to up there.
Find a pebble and tie it to the rope.
Yes, I mean you can fly up there, but you just don't see anything up there to tie it off to, like nothing.
Okay. In that case, I'll just keep going up and try and scout and see a way out of this chasm.
Okay.
If we just follow it, will it
Okay.
eventually lead us out?
All right. So yeah, go ahead and do a spot up there. Yes, you fly up high enough to see that if you continue along in a northerly direction, there's twists and turns, but it does seem like that eventually it will deposit you out onto
Percent.
ground that is about equal in elevation to the ground at the top of this canyon.
Okay. Let's see. How far up do I have to go to be able to see that? Because what I'd like to do is go up, find that out, go back and tell them to start in that direction, and then fly back up to scout out a little bit more, or like farther out around where we are, try and get an idea of like
Okay.
where we are in relation to everything.
Yeah, so that would take up. I mean, to fly up, look around to see if there's something to tie it off, not find anything. Fly higher to scout. We'll say you've used 4 minutes.
Okay. So then I'll fly back down, tell them to head north, and it should lead them on a path that comes out of this chasm, and then fly back up. And I'll stay flying kind of over the chasm until my fly runs out, and then I'll just feather fall back down.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys see him come down, and he shouts to you to travel in a northern direction.
But yeah, while I'm up there, I'll try and see if there are any signs of creatures, people, encampments, any kind of signs of life whatsoever. Most specifically, seeing if I see any signs of our rocks or where they may have fallen.
Try your whistle while you're up there.
Yeah, I can do that as well.
Okay.
No.
Know what?
Don't try
Too
your
late.
whistle.
You did. So you blow your whistle, but you don't see any rocks appear.
Okay.
Now do a spot up there. All right, so you don't see anything in the direction you're looking north along this cavern, and on either side of it you don't see anything. But except that not very far from where they're starting out, it does start to twist. It still continues in a general northerly direction, but you can't see down in there from where you're at.
Okay.
So there are twists and turns coming up, and you don't know if there could be anything in those areas that are dangerous. All right.
So I should be able to get like 3,000 or 4,000 feet up in the air before it actually wears off.
Is that how high you want to go?
Yeah, I just wanted to keep going up so I can get the best possible vantage I can before.
Okay. Yeah, so you get up that high. From that height, actually, you'll have something else to contend with. Right, so from that height, you see anything except stone, canyons, and crevices. You don't see anything that seems dangerous. You don't see any sign of life at all, really.
Okay. And I suppose I can see the rock mountains to the southeast of us.
Yeah, right. So
Rock cliffs.
that's where things get weird when you look that direction. So once you get up that height and you look over there, you do see those rock cliffs and more of the island beyond it. But it looks to you like it's behind a dirty window. That's what it seems like.
Okay.
And are you guys going to travel north like you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's your order?
You want me to range out front? Keep an eye
Yeah.
on things?
Yeah, since he's up in the air, as we'll have you out front, and then me, and then rear guard.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So I'll range out 40 feet ahead of them, and I'll hide and move silently. I'll just move my normal speed, so I'll take the penalty to it.
Okay. There's nothing in your sight line to hide behind except for the arches. And those are spaced quite far apart.
Okay. Well, then I'll just try to be quiet.
Okay. All right. So you're moving along, and the wind has begun to pick up in intensity. It had been a light breeze, but now you're getting actual blowing wind, and it's howling off of the walls, and it's making it hard to hear anything really. But did you roll your?
I'm throwing it out there now. And I applied a -5 penalty for moving full speed.
Okay.
And I won't roll it unless we need to, but I will stop at the archways or bends in the path to peek around at what lays ahead, even though I know I can't hide the whole time.
Right. Yeah. So you go up there to scout, and you peek around. So you walk I'd say you guys go about 60 feet before it bends enough that, blocks vision. So you get up there and you peek around, you hide behind, an outcropping of the stone, and you peek around and you see that canyon narrows to about 15 feet for quite a ways. And it also, you're looking at a pretty steep decline for a good distance. You can see the point at which it eventually angles back upward, but from your vantage point, it's a pretty steep decline. And then you can also see enough to realize that, maybe 200 feet ahead, the canyon widens out. But from where you are, you can't tell if the whole canyon widens out or if just sections of the wall down at that level are hollowed out a bit. You can't tell if it branches or if it's just a widened area. So
I'll pause at the decline and see how safe it's going to be to travel down it.
well, it's perfectly safe. Doesn't seem slippery.
Okay.
It is smooth, but not slippery. It's a rough rock, so good foothold for your boots. And it's not steep enough to be climbing. You'd still be walking. Now, if
Okay.
anybody got a good run, they might not be able to stop themselves, and that could get dangerous. But
Well, I'll press on at the same distance ahead of them.
okay. And then Rohan,
Yeah.
now you're flying above.
Yep.
All right, so you see the same thing, the decline that Graham's starting to walk down. And from your angle, you can see that the widened area is only down at that level. It's not further up.
Okay.
But you can't see, it could be a tunnel or it could just be a hollowed out section. You can't tell from but you know that doesn't extend all the way up to the top. But you don't see anything dangerous as you're going down.
Okay. And as I come down, I'd like to land up on the top of the cliff rather than go down into the chasm with them,
Okay.
so that I can rush ahead while not being seen by anything in the chasm.
Gotcha. All right. So, Graham, now you've reached the point where it starts to widen out. Like that's the point that's just up ahead. So from where you are, you can now start to see more of it. And it looks to you like probably from the ground to 30 feet up has been hollowed out on both the left and the right. But you can't tell how far from where you are. There are no more arches in the pathway, at least where you are. And despite all of the raining rock of last night, the ground is perfectly clear here.
So let me understand this a little bit better. So as I'm traveling off to my left and right, there's hollows in the rock wall that I can't see the end of.
Like you're traveling through this canyon, and this canyon where you are is 15, the walls are 15 feet wide, right? I mean, the space within which you walk is 15 feet wide. And it's at a decline. And further ahead of you, perhaps 30 feet now, the ground slopes and begins going back up. And at that point, the walls on either side of that point are hollowed out. So from your angle, you can see, looking along the wall, that there's more space. But you can't, from where you are right now, see how much more space or what's really inside those hollows. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
About what time of day is it when we get to this?
Well, it's still morning.
Okay.
I mean, this hasn't taken you guys very long. All right. So you're going to press on?
Yeah, I will pause there for a moment and try to be more alert with these different angles as I go forward.
Yeah. So, you creep forward. And as you do, as you get further and further ahead, you see more and more. And
Do these look like they're worked?
no, there's no signs of that you can see. You know, this is like these sorts of canyons were probably carved by water or, lava at some point. All right. So what's that? Silent? Okay. All right. Yeah. So you tiptoe forward and you can reach the edge there of where it starts to hollow out. So on the left side, you can see more, and you can peek around the right and look in that. And that's basically what it is. It's just a really large hollow space carved out on either side. Nothing from where you are points to any, entrances or anything like that. It's just hollowed out space. But you do see a lot of evidence of wildlife using this area. You see a lot of dung laying around, and you see a lot of marks along the walls, like score marks, like maybe from horns or hooves, right? And you also see in there where the sun's not reaching, there's a really thick moss growing on those walls. Really thick gray moss.
Well, I'll pause at the hollows and see if any of the woodcraft that Rohan has taught me will help me in determining like how old or how long ago they had been used.
Mm-hmm.
But I only rolled a 7 with my survival.
Yeah, so you can't tell. I mean, you're looking at it and you see animals for certain have used it, but you can't tell the difference between 1-day-old dung and 1-year-old dung, because especially since you don't know what animal it comes from.
Okay, well, I'll pass on a ways, but I think I'll halt there for a moment, at least until I see these guys come into sight up the incline before continuing on.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys pass by and you see that same thing I described to him. There doesn't look to be anything dangerous, and you don't see any signs of wildlife. And then the path starts angling back upwards at a angle about as steep as you went down before. So you can see that you'll be going upwards for 30 feet before it angles sharply to the east. So you don't know what's beyond that. And you're walking along the top. So you can see where it angles, and then you can also see that doesn't reach to your level. So
it actually
they'll be
creates
going
a solid bridge.
right. They'll be going into the rock, and that it's not open to the sky like the rest of it has been so far.
Does it open up a little farther down?
No, not that you're able to see. Although, unless it's a dead end, it has to. But I mean, you can't trace the lines.
Okay.
So there is an opening up ahead, but that opening comes out like, or not opening, but that line starts a little bit further to the west. So if it is a connection, then it's going to snake through, some areas you can't see.
Okay. I'll jump down.
Do you do the vampire jump down thing?
Yep.
Right
Actually,
in
I'd
front
probably
of
do
me.
like the, bow drawn at, heroic stance as I.
But
as
there's
I
no
gently-
enemies.
Hey, it's not my rules. I have to fall like that. It's part of the rule set.
He even falls slower than normal. Unfortunately, time doesn't slow down for him.
So we're like 20 minutes into this tunnel by the time he gets to the ground. Nailed it.
All right. So, you go to jump down, and it's at that moment that you all start to notice that like a sudden change in the weight you're carrying. Like suddenly, your armor's heavier and your weapon's heavier, and if any of you had so that they were glowing, they stopped glowing. And let's see, that's gonna land.
If I take like a couple of steps back, does it come back? Or does it stay the
Right.
same?
Yeah, this is a good idea. Yeah, so you're trying that, but no, it doesn't appear to be. And also, you realize that you're having a lot of trouble calling to mind what spells you have ready to go.
Okay. I was
Like,
gonna say-
that they're still there, though.
I was just going to ask if I could do a detect magic, so.
Well, you can try. Do you want to try?
Well, I mean, if I'm having trouble calling them to mind, I probably won't.
Like, you still have spells.
Yeah.
You're just having a hard time remembering which ones they were and and what to do to make them go. Like for you, Casimir, like you have spells, but those words or the phrase you're supposed to use, you're having a hard time remembering.
Is this like
however it
before
works.
our spells started working originally on the island?
No, it's quite different.
Okay.
It's quite different.
Yeah, I won't try it. I don't want to mess anything up with them.
Does that mean I just plummet to the ground?
Well, you plummet 10 feet. This happens when you're about to land.
Okay.
Right.
It's, roll, tumble.
I give it a shot.
I think it would be you that has the slow fall, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh, no, ability. Rogues don't get it?
No, monk.
Monk.
Yeah, close. What is it, 10?
I
Yeah.
think so.
All right. Did you take any damage?
Yep.
All right. So 2d6. First 6 is...
What is it? It's a 10-foot fall?
Yeah.
1d6, right?
Is it 10?
That was 1.
1d6 per 10 feet? Is
I
that what it
believe so, up to a max of 20.
is? Okay. Well, you shouldn't have any wounds.
Okay.
Nobody should. So that's subdual, Rohan.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you are. Rohan crashes to the ground much louder than you would have expected, and you realize that for some reason none of your items are working.
Be careful here, Rowan.
I'll still give my bow like a draw to make sure that my bow is still functioning right. I don't really know the properties of dark wood and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it works like a bow,
Okay.
but it clearly has no magic to it.
Yeah, it's not doing the sparklies, but it still draws.
Yeah, it'll still draw.
Okay.
I mean, your sword's still sharp. It's just not magical. But your
Well,
trident's been turned into a pitchfork.
it's a good thing that
It's
I
got
kept
hay all
these
over it.
It's still better than when it started.
Since we're going into a cave.
Hmm?
Torches, as I still have them in the bag of holding. It's a good thing that I
Really?
kept them. Yeah.
Oh.
I was figured that we'd hang on to them just in case, and never know when we would need an actual torch, and this is one of those times. I don't think we have a whole lot. If I remember correctly, I think we only had 10.
Well, so if the bag of holding still works,
Hmm.
might want to be careful reaching your hand in there.
Good point.
Open it and have all of this stuff just come pouring out or just explode.
Yeah, so 2 lanterns, 10 torches.
Suddenly it bursts from, what is it, how much dirt did you have in there, Graham?
I think
20
we had 20
pounds.
pounds. Yeah.
With us, it's you.
I'm not carrying it. Any
Except
of you
that
could have removed the dirt.
Since it mixed, well, I don't even know that it's in there. Because I'm not calling dirt to mind when I reach my hand in there. I wonder if there's some dirt. Because you'd have to inform me so that I could get rid of it. But with the 4 days of water, if it did burst, it's probably just mud now.
Well, what you notice when you're looking through that is obviously the bag is still working because it hasn't spit all your stuff out, and some of your potions, or not potions, but you can still feel and Graham might have told you that like the wand still worked.
Okay.
But let's see, some of you got potions here.
I just have one, but I already poured it out. I should remove that.
Let's see. So Fenrith, you're digging through your stuff. One of your, you notice that one of your potions of Eagle's Splendor has become discolored.
I'll hang on to it just in case. I'll check it again when we get back into an area that has magic again.
I do that with milk. Yeah, it's looking kind of discolored. I'll just hold on to it.
Maybe it'll get better.
Yeah, get her around a cow. Maybe it'll fix itself.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just like that because we're in this thing, and
Yeah,
it'll be good
I get
later. Plus now it's poison, so I can spread it all over my sword.
you. Yeah. Well, maybe Graham will drink it. You better label it with one of those Mr. Yuck stickers.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if cows could regenerate milk to a.
All right.
Don't they
Property,
kind of
yeah.
regenerate milk
So-
naturally?
Yeah,
Well,
so that's
just
what
hold it
happens.
near them.
The magic seems to have left some of your, most of your items, although it seems to remain in some. So, those of you with the knowledge of magic, that's what stands out to you. If there were no magic, there should be no magic, but there is some magic. So that's a little odd.
What would I need to theorize, like wild magic zones or the such?
Anti-magic.
Yeah, Arcana.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Give that a shot too.
Yeah, yours is higher than mine.
Yeah. Gross.
Come on.
Yeah, so I mean that's stuff that wild magic and that was stuff that was explained to you in your studies. It doesn't match this.
Okay.
What it seems like here is something you've never heard of before in your studies, because like some things plain don't work, like your weapons and armor. That magic is gone. Some of the magic remains, and other magic, like with the potions, it's being fouled. So it's not something that with these rolls you have any theory for.
Okay.
But now you were standing at the bottom of that incline when that happens. And so behind you is those hollows, and up ahead you've got that twist to the right. And what do?
Well, what did you see from up top? You see which way we should go in?
There's no way to tell where this path leads once it enters the earth, but there is an exit not too far, to the northwest of here.
Okay.
And kind of
So-
assume that this will eventually lead to there, but the distance is unknowable.
Well, which way do you think are you going to take us then, Graham?
Well, with Rohan back, I defer to his wisdom of natural environments.
Well, we only really have the one option, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. We'll go in that one option direction.
Yeah, unless you want to go back or climb up.
I was up there. There's not much to speak of.
All right, so you reach that point where the opening into the cavern wall to the east, and you can see that it offers plenty of room, like room enough for two people to walk abreast, and the ceiling is pretty high, and you can see that it extends for, as far as you see, in a generally straight direction into the dark.
And it's not heading towards the direction that I saw the exit.
Right, it's still headed east at this point.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll head that direction.
All right, so
Once again, trying to...
we'll have Rohan first, and then who?
So Rohan, Gran, me, Casimir. That's our march order.
Okay, and how far behind do you want to be, Graham? How far behind Rohan do you want to be?
I'd like to have him carry the torch so that I have both my hands free for my bow.
I guess I'll be right behind him then.
All right, so you've lit a torch. How many torches do you have?
I have a total of 10. I figure that we'll keep one back with us. One for you guys for right now.
What
Okay.
is it? We got, 40 feet of light, 40 shadow with the torch? Because
Yeah.
it's doubled with our elf.
If that's still working.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the light, I don't know.
We just
if
need one.
Yeah, I
So
don't know
just
if
one?
we would need...
Okay.
Yeah. We'll just hang out in the shadowy.
The
So-
light will kind of announce our presence, so there's not a whole
Well-
lot of benefit in sneaking.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you can still sneak if you're in the shadowy.
Yeah.
That's the key. But the problem is the dark vision doesn't have like dark creatures with dark vision doesn't have shadowy. So if you're too far into the shadow, you'll be in their dark vision and lose all your hiding.
Well, that, and if I'm at the edge of the shadowy, then I can't see ahead.
You would only need to be at the edge of the torch natural shadowy, not our elvish shadowy,
Yeah.
Anyways,
which would give you 20 feet.
so you head into the darkness,
Not a lot
and
of distance.
you've got pretty flat ground as you go, and you go a few minutes in a relatively straight, flat path before it angles sharply to the north. But it's a very sharp angle, sharp enough that you got to turn and push through sideways for a few feet before you can get back normal again. But it's headed to the north, and once you've pushed through that tight area, then it opens up again to about the same space where two people could walk abreast, and it moves relatively normal.
Yeah, when we get to the point where I have to push myself through, I need to take a few moments to force myself to go into another tight situation.
Okay. Yeah, so you catch your breath and you force yourself to push through, and so you do. And you're moving along and you come to a section where it widens even more. And you can see that it's relatively still straight, the path ahead, but roll your spots and listen. All right, so you get to this point where it widens out. It's still relatively straight, like I said, but they feel different in this area, and you can't put your finger on exactly why. But as you look at it, you see the signs of other activity here, like a scrap of food here, a whetstone left out on the ground there, a bucket of water, that sort of a thing, when you're looking ahead into this section. But as you look and you listen, you don't hear or see any people.
Okay, I'm gonna try and move silently and go investigate some of those objects.
Okay.
See if they look like they've been recently used or handled.
All right. So here's the place you see. Oh, wait. There we go. All right. So Ron, there you are. And you're in the very entry to this. And Graham behind you. And then Casimir and Fenrith in there. And this is what you're looking at. So I'm going to get you the dimensions, because once you move in here, the light pretty much illuminates the extent of it before it angles at the other end and disappears. And so here you are, and this is where I'll move you. This is where you see, like this, there was a whetstone laying on the floor there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you bend down, you're looking at that, and you can see that it's clearly been used. It's got that concave shape to it, from a lot of use, whatever. And let's see, everybody did their listen. Yeah, then at this point, you hear a sound up ahead, and you hear a sound up ahead, and you look and watch as a being, some person,
Kill it.
steps right out of the wall. So this is a woman, clearly steps out. She steps out of the wall, because you're looking right there when it happens. And it's a woman. It's an elf woman. So at first you're like, you feel a sense of like,
One of us.
right. You get that. Yeah. Right. Because you don't see a lot of them. But now you
Kinship.
see an elf. But this one looks like no other elf you've seen before. Now she's clearly a warrior of some sort. She's got weapons and armor, and she has the telltale, pointed ears and the angled eyes. But that's where the similarities end. Now her armor's black. It has this sickly red glow to it. And so do her weapons, and her teeth have been filed to points. And there's just not a part of her face or her arms or her legs that are visible that haven't been scarred, and you can tell immediately that it's the sort of scars that are done on purpose. And you look and see in her eyes, there's a pure hatred, immediate hatred for you. She draws her weapons.
If this was a movie, this would be where I fall in love.
Yeah, it's not like we're.
Hang on a second. So she's got a long sword she pulls out, and she's also got this other weapon in her other hand. It's a real wicked looking curved knife, but it curves inward. It's got a broad blade. I don't think you guys have ever encountered it before, but it's a kukri, and you can just tell by looking at it that it would not be nice to get sliced with that. So she steps out and she speaks to you, and you all recognize it as Elven in its base, but none of it makes sense to you. It's like it's a dialect that's so different from yours that you can't understand. It might as well be a different language. It's even more frustrating though, because you know it has its base in Elven, but you can't understand it. And let's take a break there.
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.